Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our WFSU Summer Challenge Kickoff. We have some awesome ocean experts here giving presentations today, and our next one starts right now. We have Dr. Natalie Geyer here, aka Dr. Plankton. Woo! She is with FSU C2C, and she's going to give a talk all about plankton.
Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for coming. Can y'all hear me? No? Are we? Okay, okay. That's fine. Okay, so yeah, as she said, I'm going to talk to y'all about a hidden world in the ocean, and it's all about the plankton, and we'll see why it's hidden here in a moment. So plankton live in the ocean. They're a marine organism. Plankton can also live in freshwater, but we're going to focus today on the marine plankton. So there are 5 oceans that we kind of consider on Earth, and those are the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian Ocean, the Arctic, and what's not on this map, but it's catching on some momentum, is the Southern Ocean, and that goes around Antarctica. So it's its own special ocean, currents and things that we consider in science. So plankton are in the water, so let's put on our scuba mask and go explore. So if everyone can put their scuba mask on, we're going to go underwater. And this is what I do as some of my work as an oceanographer. I go scuba diving to research coral reefs and fish, as well as plankton, and diving's a lot of fun, so I get to do it for work and for pleasure. So here's a picture I took underwater on a coral reef. Does anyone see the plankton? So I see some corals up in the front. There's maybe a fish in the back. So where are the plankton? So we've got our scuba mask on. We've got special microscope scuba mask. So we're going to zoom in to more of a small chunk of water, and we start to see something. What are those? Look like little bugs in the water. But we're going to zoom in a little bit more so that we can see them better. And this is what we might see. Of a huge diversity of plankton species. It's been estimated there's over 1.5 million different species of plankton in the oceans. 1.5 million. I just can't even wrap my head around that. It's such a big number. And you can just see up here about a dozen pictures, so we're going to look at a few. And you just see their different shapes. Some have spines, some are circles, some have armor, some of them are kind of soft and squishy. So the question becomes, well, what are plankton then? If there's so many species, how can we put so many different organisms into one category? Some people might be familiar with Mr. Plankton, the evil plankton. He likes to get all the attention, what can I say? But Mr. Plankton is actually based on a real animal called a copepod. And from this picture you can see Mr. Plankton has antennae, just like a copepod. He has one eye spot. It is actually correct. He is kind of a cyclops creature. And you can kind of see at the top of the copepod picture, this little dot, that's his eye spot. That's how he sees light and dark. And then he's got little arms that he swims with and a tail that helps him swim too. So how big is this? Is Mr. Plankton the size of me? Is he the size of my dog? Is he an elephant? Mr. Plankton is really small. He's smaller than a grain of rice. You could probably fit thousands, if not millions, Mr. Planktons on your thumbnail. So we have to use our microscope goggles to see them. So plankton means drifter. And by that we mean that all plankton kind of go with the flow in the ocean. So if the wave goes this way, the plankton go. And if the wave comes back, that's where the plankton go too. So they're drifters, and that's how they can all be considered part of this plankton and be different species at the same time. So Most plankton are microscopic. We said Mr. Plankton is smaller than a grain of rice. Some plankton that are drifters could just be really bad swimmers. There's some jellyfish that could be from me to the wall and further. They'll be that long, and they're still part of the plankton because they just can't swim against the waves. But most of them that we're going to think about right now are going to be really small. And there's two types. Does anybody know the two types of plankton? Yes, you.
There's phytoplankton
There's
and zooplankton.
Phytoplankton and zooplankton. You might have heard these words before. So the zooplankton, just like a zoo has animals, they're the animal plankton. And then phytoplankton are our plant plankton. So which one do you think that Mr. Plankton is? If he moves around, he is part of the animal plankton. So remember we said he's a copepod, he has arms and legs and he swims and he eats the phytoplankton, so it makes him part of the zooplankton. And so if this will work, have a little video maybe. Oh, there we go. A little video to show, under the microscope, different copepods eating. And some lovely music to go with it. Because, let's be honest, everybody likes a little classical music, and the zooplankton aren't any different. So what you see is the copepod bouncing around in the water, and all the little dots, those are the phytoplankton. Those are itty bitty. They're like the size, the width of a strand of hair, or smaller. They might even be smaller than that. So our instructions on the video that he's going to show, we're going to fast forward. We'll fast forward a little. So he puts a drop of phytoplankton in the water, and then we speed up time a little bit and see all the copepods eating them. And they zip around. And they just, it's like a copepod resort. They are in heaven eating it all up. So you can see the size difference. On the phytoplankton are really small, zooplankton are a lot bigger, and they swim around and eat. And this is what they do in the ocean too. So this is a different feeding method. So he's filter feeding. You can see the current. He's using those front feet to paddle the water through his mouth so he can eat them all up. So we'll keep going. So as I said before, plankton live in the ocean. But where in the ocean do they live? The ocean is on average 2 miles deep, and sometimes in other places it can be up to 9 miles deep. That's a lot of water. So where are they? Are they at the very bottom? Or maybe in the middle? Are they only 1 mile down? Or towards the surface? I'll give you a hint. Phytoplankton are plants. And what do plants need to grow? Plants need sunlight. So just like trees and grass that use the sunlight and carbon dioxide to make sugar and oxygen, the phytoplankton live in the photic zone of the ocean, which is the upper part of the water column. And that's where sunlight can actually reach. Below this, it's too dark for phytoplankton to live. So phytoplankton, you can see the green color in the cells, and that's their chloroplast. Just like trees make them green, that's where these are the photosynthesizing machines of the plankton. So photosynthesis they create oxygen, right? So everyone take a deep breath and say, thank you, phytoplankton. Because they make over 50% of the oxygen in the atmosphere that we breathe. So we heart phytoplankton. So if phytoplankton are in the surface, they need the sunlight to grow. The zooplankton then eat the phytoplankton. And guess who eats the zooplankton? The fish. Fish eat the zooplankton, like Mr. Plankton, the copepod. And then we eat the fish. So there's two things to thank plankton for. Thank them for the air we breathe, and we thank them for all the food that we get to eat. Do you know who else likes plankton besides fish? Think of a bigger. Sharks? Who else? Whales. You're so right. And does anybody remember? Do you remember that from Finding Nemo? That whales eat krill. So that's what's in this picture. So krill are part of the plankton. They're zooplankton, they're animals. And so much of the ocean's ecosystem depends on them for food. So let's all say it together. Thanks, phytoplankton. Sorry, I'm prejudiced to the phytoplankton. It's all plankton that we love. I just particularly love the phytoplankton. So, with that, does anyone have any questions? No? Yeah?
You said copepods are roughly the size of a grain of rice. So if I got a scoop of water in my hand, would I be able to see a copepod?
That's a good question. Did y'all hear him? Said copepods are about the size of a grain of rice. So if we had a scoop of water in our hands, would we actually be able to see them? And the answer is yes. We could see a copepod with our naked eye without a microscope. We just have to look really closely. A microscope just helps us see them a little closer. So I have some questions for you. Who remembers the two types of plankton? Or just at least one of the two types? Oh, I heard phytoplankton. You get to come get a prize. Does anyone remember? Here you go. Okay. What was it? Zooplankton. Give her a hand. Yes. You want to come get a prize too? Here you go. You're welcome. Okay. And for one more question, it's got to be a good one. Who can tell me why we should love plankton? Do we have an idea down here in the front? Take a deep breath. Why do we like? Yeah, you want to come get a prize too? Can we put it on? There you go. Good job. All right, thanks guys.